Hello, everybody. We are about to get started here, so I'll let everyone get your seats. Welcome. Have a couple more people coming in. Can everybody hear me okay? Awesome. All right, my name is Sarah Lamb, and I will start by introducing myself. I am what is referred to as the TAP specialist at Washington High School, and I'm kind of the MC tonight, so I'll give an introduction. And just a couple of housekeeping things. If you need the restrooms, they're out here to the right. And you're welcome to come and go as you please. There's cookies back there. There's a therapy dog here. I'm sure a couple of you saw him wandering around. He's like the Washington High School mascot, basically. He's a really neat guy. But if you prefer not to be around dogs, we'll keep him contained. That's basically it. We'll start the night by introducing the Transition Alliance program, the TAP team. There's one of us at each high school, and then we'll get into introducing Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services, and then we will get into the rest of the evening. Yes, resources from our guest speaker. All right, so the Transition Alliance program consists of Kelsey Teeter, if you want to stand up and introduce yourself. She is located at our schools of Metro High School and Polk, and she also goes to the Transition Center. We have Kristen Matan, who is at Kennedy High School. She's back there. You guys might recognize her if you're from Kennedy tonight. And then we have myself, like I said, Sarah Lamb, and I'm at Washington. And then we have Rebecca Egley, and she's right there. She's at Jefferson High School. And we do not have with us tonight Chad Miller, who is our TAP job coach. We'll get into what's really cool about him here in a minute, but he is a job coach that can actually work with students who are in paid employment and help with the onboarding of their jobs. So a little bit about TAP. We are a program that helps bridge your students with IEPs, 504s, different diagnoses, from high school into adulthood, and our main focus is helping them gain fully integrated employment out into the community, and whatever means necessary. So I mentioned that job coach. We bring him on the team if they need support getting into that employment goal. But we really start getting to know your students in high school as part of the IEP team. We are results driven, so we are part school district and part Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services. So that is the beauty of our program. We can transition into working with them after high school because of Voc Rehab, who I will introduce to you here in a minute. We have core areas that we work on when we do work with your students. So the first one is career exploration. So we like to be really good matchmakers when we're working with your students. So we take them through a lot of different quizzes and conversations so that they really understand what's out there. I like to say that there's a lot of jobs out there that they don't see. When they're driving around, they think of Subway, Walmart, Target, all of those different things, but they need that consultative approach to think about how much deeper they can go into their learning about careers. And then we like to get them workplace ready. So we do a lot of consulting on those social skills and those customer service skills. We do take them through a customer service academy. That's something that we offer. And all kinds of other skill building. So some of our students don't have their voicemail set up. we make sure their voicemail is set up. They practice making return phone calls and doing job searching with us and all kinds of different things like that. We do work-based learning, so we go out into the community with our students and have them experience job shadows, job tours, and we can set up those work-based learning opportunities for as long as it needs to be as well. If it's an IEP team decision for them to be in our work-based learning program with the district so that they can be on the job gaining those job skills with a job coach through the district too. So we can be both things. We like to counsel on opportunities too. For example, I have a student who is wanting to go to college for journalism, and he and I worked together on scholarships. So we got very personal about why he's very passionate about that, and we helped edit that together, and it sparked ideas for different scholarships for him to apply for. There's just so many different opportunities that we talk to our students about because we really build that relationship and it connects the dots to the different things that can help them succeed. And then we really work on self-advocacy. We like our students to be able to, be able to ask for the things that they need instead of asking their mom and dad to handle it for them, because we want them to have that skill after high school as well, be able to talk to their employers if they need time off to go to an appointment or, any skill that you can imagine where you really need to be the one that uses your own voice. We really encourage that level of independence, and we help them gain those skills by the work that we do together. We do have a summer program, so us TAP people, we are year-round people. We have a lot of cool stuff going on this year. We're going to do transportation training, so we're going to teach you how to do the city bus, which is a big independent skill. We're going to go on job shadows. We're going to do some resume building and interview skills. Remind me what else. Oh, we're going to do skip the trip, like if you want to work on your permit. We all have access to skip the trip at our school, so you can actually take your permit tests with us at the school now, and then you just have to go to the DOT to take your picture. So we practice studying for the permit and things like that. So lots of opportunities. And then I'll show you real quick the website, and we'll send out this whole presentation after the fact because this is a lot of information tonight. This is part of the Voc Rehab. It's interchangeable. We say Voc Rehab or Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services, IVRS, kind of alphabet soup. But there's this part for parents and educators that you can kind of scroll through. And then if you go back up, you can also click on the part for high school students and kind of explore this part of the website. And then you can also click on TAP and really get into what our program offers your students with those follow-up, follow-along services up to age 25. All right. And next up, I will feature and introduce our Iowa Voc Rehab counterparts, the second half of the TAP services. All right, Maggie Johnson.
Hi, I'm Maggie Johnson, and I'm an Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Counselor, and my colleague Jenny Nuss is also a Voc Rehab counselor, and together we cover the Cedar Rapids Community School District in partnership with our TAP, our Transition Alliance program. So any student who chooses to work with TAP and IVRS within the Cedar Rapids School District will have both a Voc Rehab counselor, myself or Jenny, and a TAP specialist, one of the gals that you just saw Sarah introduce.
Okay, is this working? Yes, okay. Also, wait, can you go back for just a second? I just want to acknowledge that, so I'm Jenny, and I'm the Voc Rehab counselor for Kennedy and then half of the Transition Center. But I also wanted to acknowledge that it looks like it's off, and I promise I'm doing my part. See, like Maggie has all those schools listed. So I have Linn-Mar, and I also have Xavier High School, and I have Centerpoint Urbana. So I'm not just horribly awful at my job,
And they
but
don't
I only
have
get
TAP.
Kennedy.
Those schools don't have TAP, so she doesn't have help at those schools.
That's true. That's true. Okay, you can go on now. So, and also I want to acknowledge that I'm horrible at speaking in front of people, and I'm not as well spoken as Sarah. So we have to follow her. And she stole my mojo because you went over like the website, and I was going to do that. So now I don't have to do that. So that's great. Yeah. Okay. So Voc Rehab, we are a state and federally funded agency. We're actually located downstairs in Lindell Mall with Iowa Workforce. So if you guys know where that's at, that's where our main office is. There are 13 area offices across the state. Maggie and I are never in the office because we're out at our schools all week long. So we're very rarely there, but if we need to find like a neutral place to meet with students or parents, we can always meet in Lindale. We have up there, the formatting's weird, but that's okay. We have up there our about us, our vision, and our motto. So I just wanted to read through that really quick. So we provide expert, individualized services to Iowans with disabilities to achieve their independence through successful employment and economic support. Our vision is to make a positive difference for every person, one person at a time. And our motto is finding solutions and generating success. Something I did want to mention is for our high school students that we work with, and we do very, very similar work to what TAP does. So we focus on those 5 areas that Sarah had went over. We all work with youth that are at least 14 years old or older. So that includes pretty much anyone in the high school, a freshman and up. We do individualized services, but we also do a lot of classroom things as well, which is a great perk to the program too. Let's see. Oh, can you click on the about? I did want to mention one thing. So go to the website.
Back.
Sorry, not that one. Can you go to like the Voc Rehab website? There you go. And then can you go up and go to high school students? And then if you scroll down a little bit, there is a link, keep going a little bit, to an IVRS high school contact list. So at this link, you'll find across the state, whoever you need to contact for your Voc Rehab, every public high school in Iowa has a Voc Rehab counselor assigned to it, and this is how you find out who it is. So I just wanted to show you that resource as well. Let's see if I'm missing anything. I think that was it for my part, right? So then one of the services that we do provide is benefits counseling, which Maggie was going to talk a little bit more about.
Yes. So how many in here have heard of people receiving Social Security or disability or SSI, some kind of cash benefit that doesn't have to do with retirement? This is something that a person under age 18 could receive, a person between 18 and 65 could receive. It sounds like a few people are aware that this is a thing. So not everyone we work with gets Social Security or disability, as you might call it, but anybody who works or anybody who gets disability or SSI, we use those terms interchangeably, they would be automatically eligible to work with us. So if you have a young person in the home who is getting a cash benefit, they would be automatically eligible because the Disability Determination Bureau said, look, they learn a lot differently from their peers. So we're going to give their family some extra money based on a need and a disability. And then they're also going to be qualified for vocational rehabilitation when they apply. So I just wanted to point out that a service that we offer that is pretty widely used by folks who are getting benefits is benefits counseling. And that is just a fancy term for helping you sift through and figure out how your child is going to work and receive Social Security at the same time, or how they are going to work their way off of Social Security in order to earn full-time wages. we can do a lot with that in terms of helping you find safety nets and ways to kind of make it a smooth transition. Basically, so some of the students that we work with, they get SSI or SSDI in some cases before they turn 18, and then they turn 18 and they don't qualify anymore. And then some students that we work with, they weren't getting it before they were 18, and then they apply after age 18 and they get the benefits, and that's okay. And some get it before they're 18 and manage to stay on it after 18. So we work with every different situation. Every situation's a little different. As far as benefits planning and incentives, there's basically some special rules that make it possible, like I said, for people getting Social Security to work and earn money and still get their Social Security and stay on Medicaid. And we actually have a monthly, there's so much information on this, it's not a one-time kind of training. We have a monthly parents training that our Voc Rehab agency-wide benefits planning consultant runs, and it's the second Thursday of every month. There's gonna be a flyer in your folder for this. She holds a Zoom session, it's just an hour, and any parent across the state can log on and talk with her, and she kind of takes the survey at the beginning, and maybe a lot of the parents on that night will want to talk about a certain topic, whether it's like that age 18 redetermination, or whether parents are wanting to talk about how can my 16-year-old earn money and not have their SSI check reduced. Whatever questions you have, we're able to address those on Thursday nights, the second Thursday of every month. And you can also do benefits planning individually with your Voc Rehab counselor. And if you ever were not sure how to access that, you would just want to contact the TAP person in your building, and they could connect you with myself or Jenny. It's a very, very, very complicated system. If anyone's ever tried to navigate it, it's extremely, extremely difficult. And if anyone's ever tried to navigate it and then took the rules that they learned from some example situation, like their sister or their cousin or their neighbor, and then tried to apply those rules to their own situation, then you get even more confused, because every single individual household is different. So if your child is someone who either you don't expect is going to be able to work at the same rate as a typical peer and earn a full-time living, or they're learning a lot differently and they are on an IEP and your household may have a need, consider Social Security as something that could help and be a safety net. I also wanted to point out, Kelsey, can you click on they can still work? Okay, so let's just do a pretend calculation. This is the first tool that I use for everyone. Let's just pretend you don't have any unearned income, 0. So this is just from the Iowa Disability Benefits Network. It's a public website, anyone can use it. It's linked to the Voc Rehab website too. And this is just a calculator to show how, like I'll show 18 or 19-year-olds usually, how, look, if you got a job and you were earning even $100 a week, you could still keep most of your SSI and you'd be safe, you wouldn't lose it. So unearned income, we're gonna put 0, because that would be like if they were getting a gift income or something. Gross wages, let's pretend they're getting 400, like 10 hours a week at $10 an hour, right? So 400 a month. And then we're gonna put 0 for that, because that's a whole nother level. And then we'll calculate. And then you can kind of see, I won't go through all the line items, but you can see where if the person was getting 841 in SSI based on their need before they started working, now they're getting 683. So it went down, but not even by as much as they earned. So it increases their total income. They come out ahead. That's the bottom line, is that you come out ahead if you work. And the federal government wants to help you with your Social Security, but they want to help you get off of it too if you can. So a lot of parents do ask us, how do I get my child on SSI? That is not something that we directly do. Kelsey, if you go into the speaker notes, there's a link to applying for SSI. There is a new form out there that ssa.gov has put out. Nope, down. Up. It's not in there. It didn't make that edit. we'll make sure it makes it on the final edit before we send it out to everyone. But there is a link. It's kind of like an easy form you can fill out. Instead of having to do your whole Social Security application, you can just do a quick, like, please contact me kind of form, and you can say, I'm applying for myself, I'm applying for someone else, I have somebody else who's navigating it with me, or whatever, and put in your info, and then they'll call you and make a phone appointment and tell you if you have to go into the office for Social Security. And if you're still struggling, we can usually make a referral to another agency to help you navigate that process. You found it. Yeah. So this just a real easy way to kind of get the process initiated if you're just trying to get some quick action taken. All right, so with that, I'm going to pass it off to Kelsey Teeter, our TAP facilitator. She's going to fill your brains with a lot more transition planning stuff. Can you see?
Perfect. Thank you, and thank you all for coming. It really means a lot, not just to us, but for you being here for your children. You know, kind of like it said at the beginning, having parents and families that are engaged in supporting their children and the transition process is one of those evidence-based outcome predictors that guarantees, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say guarantees, but does produce better outcomes for our students. So thank you for taking the time to be here today. Just to kind of get a feel for who we do have in the room, with a show of hands, is there anybody who has a child under the age of 14? Yeah, still? Okay, a couple. So when we talk about transition planning and these kind of things, you probably haven't started that yet, because it's one of those things that really starts in the IEP and in the Voc Rehab world and the school world at age 14. Just like kids, are able to start driving and get their learner's permit when they turn 14. They become eligible for IVRS, for TAP, and all of these other services. The thing that changes about IEPs when your child turns 14 is you'll start talking about post-secondary expectations. And that's a really big word and probably sounds really scary, but really all it means is, what is your child's life going to look like when they're an adult and graduate high school, right? So let's start talking about and thinking about and planning for what is their living going to be like? Where are they going to be living? Who are they going to be living with? What kind of supports might they need? What about learning? We're all lifelong learners, right? What is that going to look like for your student or your child after they graduate high school? What kind of lifelong learning will they continue to engage in? And working, what is your child's goal for their career, for their job? Everybody can work, everybody can have a meaningful career. What services, support, instruction can we provide to help your student reach their career goal? So those are the kinds of things that we start talking about at that time. To help us get to that point of figuring out those goals and moving towards those goals, we look at a variety of different resources to really holistically address and identify what knowledge, attitudes, behaviors, critical thinking skills, application skills are needed, and we'll assess that along with their current level of functioning into their post-secondary environments and find ways to fill the gaps to support them to get where they want to be. So the school district can't do this all by themselves, right? As much as we would love to be able to do all of the things, that's just not feasibly possible, right? So one part of the IEP that's really important are the linkages, right? And so this is a part of the transition IEP that you go through every year. And these are connections that the IEP team makes with services and supports that are outside of the district. And it's a really important part to include in the IEP because we know that when linkages are included and different partners and agencies are collaborated with to support your child is gonna have a better outcome after they graduate high school, right? Some of these linkages could be people like Iowa Voc Rehab, TAP, and even like case management, Medicaid waivers, programs like that. Tonight, you'll be hearing much more about the Home and Community-Based Services Program. That's the Medicaid waiver program. Can I get a show of hands? How many of you have heard of that before? Does it sound familiar? Okay, that's pretty good. Do any of you receive those services currently, if you're willing to share? Okay, awesome. That's great. You guys are on it. You're ahead of the game. That's fabulous. These services are funded by Medicaid to provide extended skill development opportunities and ongoing supports that promote the autonomy and independence of your students. While a student is still in school, these programs often work in conjunction with the school teams to align services that support your individual growth. So just like a few examples to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. The ability to align with IEP goals, speech therapy goals, occupational therapy, some of those extra services your students receive through the school or through community resource providers. A Medicaid waiver program, having that case manager involved with the team, would allow for, would create opportunities for that student to work on goals outside of the school, outside of speech therapy, with a designated one-on-one staff person that is reinforcing the things that these professionals are recommending, right? So it's not all on you as the parents anymore. It's that extra set of supports to help you care for your child. The other cool thing about these services is that after high school, they're able to provide continued support in the areas of living, learning, and working as well. And they help ensure that your child has the opportunity to live a full and meaningful life. Sort of that lifelong learning piece. There's always goals, always areas we can grow, always areas we can improve. And those programs provide staff support that can work with them on that. So the reason we're talking about this tonight, because I realize we've got everything from 13-year-olds all the way up to probably a couple even 21-year-olds in the room represented tonight, right? Is that you have to start planning early. And I'm sure you've probably all heard this before, because it is a big deal. But there are wait lists. And not only are there wait lists, but finding the right provider can be difficult too. Sometimes personalities don't match and you have to try a new staff or a new agency or something like that, and that's okay. That's part of the process, but it's just a reason why it's important to get started early, right? I mentioned the wait lists. That's a really great question, and I will let Jane from case management field that a little bit more in depth later. Yep. But what I will tell you is that these waiver programs, there's like the ID waiver, BI waiver, based on your diagnosis. There's a wait list just to get on the program before you even start talking about the agencies. And those agencies all have their own wait lists, right? So for the ID waiver, for example, there are currently, I just checked this last night too, so this is like the most up-to-date information. There's currently 5,749 people on the wait list. And so what that means right now is, like, if you were to get on the ID waiver tomorrow, you would have had to have applied in 2017. For the brain injury waiver, ID stands for intellectual disability, BI stands for brain injury. For the brain injury waiver, there are 2,564 people on that wait list. And to get a spot on that program, you would have had to apply for that waiver in 2017 as well. So, and Jane is going to dig into this all a lot more with you guys. I'm just kind of giving the high level here. That's statewide, yes, absolutely. The other part about this is that these are difficult conversations to have, right? They're not easy. And I would imagine that at some point or another you have all considered or probably had someone say to you, like, what's going to happen if your child outlives you, or what happens if you're not able to take care of them anymore? What happens at that time? And that's hard to think about. It's hard for me to say up here. I can't even imagine, having to go through that process as a parent. So I feel for you guys on that level, but it's something that's really important to think about and talk about and plan for. And why I'm encouraging you, and we're hoping that here today you'll consider starting that process now. And not just because of that reason, but because really it'll be a benefit for both you and your child now and into the future, right? The cool part is that you don't have to do it alone. It is complicated, it can be cumbersome, but you're not alone, right? There are services and people out there to help you navigate the system and support your child. And just one of them, she's wonderful, she's here tonight, and her name is Jane Woolham, and she's from Johnson County Case Management.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Kelsey. Wonderful. I hope that by the end of the night you still think that. All right. So when Kelsey emailed me a few months ago and asked me to do this presentation for you, I said, of course. I've done them multiple times. And then it hit me, oh crap, I haven't done one in 2 years. So I got a little bit nervous. And then last week she emailed me and told me how many people were signed up and said that they were taping it. So I'll show my age a little bit. I thought, tape, someone wants to see it, they'll come in and get a little tape and they'll be able to watch it. So then 5 minutes ago she told me it was being live streamed. So I'm gonna stand behind the podium because I'm sweating because I'm nervous. And also my husband and my teenage sons tell me that I tend to go off on a tangent a lot. So those are my excuses for my little cheat sheet right here. And if I'm a little rusty, be assured it's not because I don't know what I'm talking about, because I think I do for the most part. Put a little caveat in there, right? So how do I know what I'm talking about? I was adding up the years today and thought, wow, I've been in the mental health and disabilities field for about 25 years. I started as a case manager and then took the supervisor position when my oldest son was 1, and he is graduating from high school in a few months. And Kelsey's like, oh my gosh, yeah, he is. And for the past 6 years, I've been the case management administrator at Johnson County Case Management. So what we do is provide case management services to individuals who are on the brain injury waiver or the intellectual disability waiver, and who also are eligible for the HIP program. Those kind of things I'll talk about a little bit later. So Kelsey kind of already asked the questions about those of you who know about Medicaid waiver. I'm still going to go through those things. And if you have something to throw out, if I miss something, yell at me. My name's Jane again, and you can add it too. So, okay, the first thing is just Medicaid. So Medicaid per DHS is a federal system of health insurance for those requiring financial assistance. It's funded by state and federal dollars. It's based on your modified adjusted gross income. So this is I know it's just gonna go like this, and I'll get to why I'm talking about this in a minute. You have to qualify, and it's based on your income. So, and it also pays for medical services. Now, a lot of people will not qualify for Medicaid because of their income or their resources. And that is the beauty of the waivers. So, we're going to talk about the waivers now. Like Kelsey said also, if you get one thing out of this presentation tonight, it is to apply for a waiver now if you think you're eligible. And I mean like tomorrow. This weekend, if you're bored, you have nothing going on, because I know with kids in high school and you just have nothing going on, but apply now because of the wait list. The numbers are ridiculous. The Health and Human Services budget was being discussed last week, and they were getting ready to possibly approve to open 250 slots on the ID waiting list. As Kelsey said, there are over 5,000. So if there was ever a time for you to write your legislators, email your governor, yell at your governor, which I would like to do a lot. Our governor seems to respond really well when something is on TV. So we do have a lot of people out there that are working with the Disabilities Council, getting their stories out there of people that are sitting at home waiting for services right now because we have 5,000 people on a wait list. Yep, go ahead. Right. Right. Right, yes. Possibly. It may be shortened. It may be shortened because of if they do open those 250 slots, because that is actually just for the ID waiver. I haven't seen that they're opening any for the brain injury waiver. There's also the health and disability waiver, AIDS, HIV waiver, elderly waiver, health and disability waiver, physical disability waiver. You might be a little bit closer if they approve it. I know that as of last week, they were discussing it. It was in the Health and Human Services budget, and so that needs to be approved and then go to the governor to be approved too, to open up those slots. There is also...
And just to interrupt real quick,
Yes,
because
go ahead.
the only voices that'll probably be picked up are those on the microphone. So the question was, you applied in 2019, so you were asking, is it going to be about 2 years? Okay,
Right.
continue.
Right. One positive thing is at the federal level, there is a push, and you know how things take time at the federal level too. There's a huge push to open up all of the slots in the whole United States for every state that has waiting lists. They want to get rid of the waiting lists. So that is being discussed at the federal level. I haven't seen any. I saw them discussing it probably about, I would say 2 to 3 months ago, and I haven't seen any movement on it yet, but at least I know it's in their heads, that they understand that this is an issue. So it's one step forward. So I'm just gonna explain for those of you that don't know what a waiver is. So like Kelsey talked about, there are 7 waivers. Each waiver has services that it provides underneath it. The reason it's called a waiver is because you do not have to meet the financial eligibility requirements to get Medicaid, to be on a waiver. Once you're approved for a waiver, when you get a slot, you automatically receive Medicaid along with the waiver. So that's why it's called a waiver, because they waive those requirements for eligibility. Now, in turn, Medicaid, you'll get Medicaid. Medicaid will pay for all your waiver services and pay for any of your health services that your private insurance, if you have that, won't pay for. I'll go in real quick about, I did want to say this too. So in your packets, Kelsey included a little description of each waiver. I think there's a comparison chart. Is that what it says on the top? It's purple, she says. Love her. So that just basically talks about each waiver and what services each waiver provides. And all those services, here's the plus thing. What color is it, Kelsey? Black and white. It's black and white. Okay, so at the top, I'm going to come around here. I'll tell you, 2 years ago, too, I didn't need these. So,
Did you want to go back to that one with the purple?
not yet. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so right here, it talks about each one of the waivers, and then it talks about the age, the target population, right? And then under there is each service that is provided under the waiver that federal and state money pays for. Okay? So on the top, it kind of talks too about what is actually the eligibility criteria. And I'll go through that really, really quick just so you have an idea of kind of narrowing this down. So the intellectual disability waiver, you need to have a diagnosis of intellectual disability by a psychologist or a psychiatrist prior to the age of 18. The IQ, the test needs to show that the individual's IQ is less than 75, and they also must show that you have functional and adaptive limitations. So with your self-care, normal living situation, with your learning, anything like that, any adaptive limitations. So another thing, if you're thinking about applying for the intellectual disability waiver, make sure that you schedule a psychological evaluation, and those are backed up too. And if you need the names of people who are doing those in this area, you can email me and I can give you those, because our case managers help parents schedule those all the time. They have to be done initially, and then they have there are rules. They have to be done every 10 years depending on what the actual intellectual disability is, whether it's severe, moderate, mild. So that's one of the first steps. The brain injury waiver, they just need to have a brain injury diagnosis. It can be at birth, like cerebral palsy, or a brain injury at any age due to seizures or an accident. Children's mental health waiver. Go ahead. I can't tell you that. Right. I think that it was added, but I'm not going to tell you 100%. But that is a question that I can look up and let you know for sure. They add different injuries to that list every so often. So that's a good one.
Can you repeat what the question was really quick?
She asked if fetal alcohol syndrome was on a list of the diagnosis. And there is an actual list in the Iowa Administrative Code. So
Perfect.
I will,
Thank you.
Kelsey, can you write that down for me? Okay. All right. The Children's Mental Health Waiver. This is a fairly, compared to the other ones, this is a fairly new waiver. It's birth to 18 years. And the child has to have a diagnosis of a serious emotional disturbance as verified by a psychiatrist, psychologist, or mental health professional in the last 12 months. The health and disability waiver under the age of 65 and be determined blind or disabled by Disability Determination Services or Social Security. Physical disability waivers between the ages of 18 and 64 have physical disability, and same as health and disability waiver, be blind or disabled as determined by receipt of Social Security benefits. So, the two waivers that we work with, like I said before, are the intellectual disability waiver and the brain injury waiver. So those are the two that I am most very familiar with. So, but if you have questions about the other waivers, like I said, my contact information is in a sheet in that packet. You can email me and I can find out. I know people after 25 years.
We will have Q&A here in a little bit, and we're going to get some note cards for you to write down more questions too.
Good.
And we'll try to follow up with those questions with the information that we send out at the end of tonight.
Okay, so like I said, underneath in that column right there, I do kind of like a slide deck, actually, Kelsey. She asked me to do one, and I said I couldn't because I'm a little more interactive. But this is great. I'm glad that you included this. So when I was talking about how each one of those, like if you look under the ID waiver, there are a list of those services: adult daycare, case management services, consumer choices option. The purple, right? The purple thing in your packet gives an explanation of each one of those services. So I can tell you the ones most used are supported community living. That is either provided in a waiver home. So individuals can move into a home of their choosing that's run by a provider that you choose, your child chooses. They are staffed 24/7. And it's kind of like moving in with a roommate. And that's how your child should be treated when they are moving in to a situation like that. So there's also supported community living that can come into your home. So they can come in and work on skills that you need to become more independent. Your child needs to become more independent, is what they shorten it. It's called SCL. If you ever hear SCL, that's what that is. Teaching your child how to go grocery shopping, how to count money, how to do laundry, how to cook meals, all those kind of things that they need to become more independent. The other one that is probably the most popular service is respite. And that is there to give parents a break. So you have a trained provider, a qualified provider that can come into your home, and you can go get groceries or go on a date night or go golfing or do what I like to do, go shopping, those kind of things. But just gives you a break. Let's see. And then the other ones have to do more with like supported employment is Voc Rehab. Dayhab are services for people that just may not be quite at the point of getting a job. They can go into a setting where they will be working on job-related skills. So that's Dayhab. And then there are other services, transportation, that's self-explanatory. There's CDAC, there are nursing, they'll pay for a nurse to come in if you need nursing. We have had some individuals in the past that have required the parent has chosen to keep them at home as long as they can. Some of them have been terminal, and we have had waiver services. Case manager has arranged for them to have someone in assisting them almost 24/7. That's rare, and we do a lot of finagling, but We've had some parents that have been, and this has happened quite often, they have been in danger of losing their jobs because they are staying at home. They can't find someone to come in and take care of their child. Because if they have complex medical needs, you need someone more than maybe the 15-year-old that lives next door or something like that. So the waiver does also provide for nursing. The other one is called IMMT. It's some more detailed medical care. And then the newest service that's been added to the waivers is called Consumer Choice Option. And that is when you get to hire your own person to come in and provide services for your child or family member. I keep saying child because I know the audience I'm talking to, but some of you may have people that you know out in the community that could benefit from this, or your children may be actually adults, 19, 20, 21. So the Consumer Choice Option is fairly new. The rules are, I'm not going to get into the rules. It's something that you will have to manage as a parent. So it can be a little tedious for some parents. It can be, sometimes the benefits outweigh the tediousness because you can have a older sibling, a grandmother, you can have someone that you trust come in and they can get paid. They can actually get paid to take care of your family member. So, okay, let's see, did I hit all of those? Okay, so the big reason that you guys are thinking about, and Kelsey talked about this a little bit too, why do you want to get on the waivers other than it providing all those services? For transitioning, what we usually tell parents is they say, well, I don't want to apply for the waiver because I'm going to keep my child at home until they graduate. That is wonderful, and that's how most children live with their parents until they graduate, right? And then they go to college, or they move into their own apartment. Well, in order for someone to do that, someone that needs services, providers have to get paid, right? So on an average, to have your child be in a waiver home, it can range, depending on the person's need, from $175 to $650 a day to pay a provider a day. I know that I can't afford that, and most people can't afford that, so that is why you apply for a waiver, because the waivers will pay for that. And your child can have independence, and you can have independence. That is why we go on and on and on about please apply for the waiver. And we tell people, I just had a personal situation where my husband's cousin had a little boy who was born with a genetic disease. And I talked to his brother about immediately having him apply for the brain injury waiver. Very difficult conversation to have, as most of you know. Sadly, he died when he was 9 months old. But it was the first time that I've explained to parents why you had to do this, but it was kind of the first time, and I've always felt terrible about it. But it was the first time that I really thought, wow, you know, it's hard to hear, but I really wanted to get that across to him that if things worked out, that he would need to apply now, just for him to for them to have people come in and start helping them, give them a little bit of respite, giving them a little bit of support, when maybe Brooks would have been 4 years old. So now I'm telling you guys this now, so you apply now, so that when in 4 years, hopefully the waiting lists go down. We hope that the waiting lists go down. But if they don't, if you apply now, maybe in 4 years when you're ready for your child to move out, they can be on the waiver and they can have that full support. And it would be something that you are not going to be paying for. You can also have your kids that they don't need 24-hour support. Maybe they are perfectly capable of living in an apartment, but they just need someone to come in maybe a couple hours a day. Take them grocery shopping, just maybe work on some other skills, such as doing laundry or cooking, you know, or just need someone to kind of check in. The waiver pays for that too. It can be from 0 hours up to 24/7 supervision. So, did I push that one enough? Apply for the waivers. Okay, let's move on. Do you guys have any questions about the waivers and Medicaid? Yes. To find what? So, right. So actually, I'll get into that and what you need to do to apply for the waivers, and it is in your packet. So there is a sheet in there that says how to apply for Medicaid, waivers, HIP, case management, and it will walk you through those steps. So the thing with the waivers is that you don't just apply for the waiver. Technically, you have to go in and you have to apply for Medicaid, okay? So you go in, you apply for Medicaid, and then there's a form that you can fill out that's in your packets too that says that you want to apply for a waiver. So what's going to happen most likely is you're going to apply for Medicaid and you're going to be denied. But if you fill out that form and tell them, or physically take the form in and say, I want to apply for the intellectual disability waiver, I want to apply for the brain injury waiver. We have parents that will apply for multiple waivers and take the first one that comes up that they're eligible for. Because we have maybe an individual that has had a brain injury. They see a psychologist, their IQ is less than 72. They have functional limitations. They qualify for both. And parents will take the first slot that they can get. And then maybe later on, the brain injury waiver gets a little sketchy because they don't usually pay for 24-hour services. You can ask for an exception to policy, but the intellectual disability does. So we have had parents that have gotten on the brain injury waiver, are on the waiting list for the intellectual disability waiver, know that their child is going to move out of the house, and then a slot comes open and they apply for the intellectual disability waiver so that all the services are paid for. That's getting a little bit more complicated. As many as you want. Well, as many as you think you would be eligible for. The caveat to that is
The question was, how many waivers can you apply for, right? And you said as many as you want?
As many as you want.
Wow.
As long as you think that you're eligible. The thing is, it's a whole thinking about your neighbor kind of thing. Because if they're going to put your name on a list, and then they're going to have to go through the process of, let's say you say, I want them all. I think I want them all because I'm ticked off that there's huge waiting lists and my kid has to wait. So maybe the health and disability one comes up and they call you, and I don't know if any of you have dealt with income maintenance, and I'm going to apologize to you if you work for income maintenance, but they are way overloaded and things take a while. So they are going to send out maybe a letter to you that tells you that you've gotten a slot on the health and disability waiver. That might take 10 days. And then you are going to come back and you're going to see it, and you open it maybe a couple days later and you check the box and you look, oh, he doesn't. Well, in that 10 days, someone else could have maybe gotten that slot, okay? So we do advise that you only apply for the ones that you really think that your child or family member will be eligible for. So yes, you can apply for brain injury, intellectual, as many as you want at that time. Right. Yes. Yes. Yep.
We will open this up for Q&A. Does it sound like time to do that, or do you have more?
Can I talk to him about HIP real quick?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just as you guys have questions, please raise your hand so I can bring you the mic, because your questions are so helpful to everyone in the room. This is really good learning happening right now.
Okay. So here's the thing too. So that's what you need to do to apply for a waiver. You need to go in, all the instructions in there, you can do it online. It's much easier because on the online application, you can't indicate that you want to apply for the waiver. So then you'll need to do it online, call income maintenance, tell them that, hey, I just filled out my Medicaid application. I also want to apply for the waivers. If you print it off and fill it out at home and take it into an office, you can actually you can hand them the sheet that I was talking about that says, I want to apply. You check the boxes, you sign your name, hand it in with your Medicaid application. And for goodness sakes, make copies. Make copies of anything that you ever take to income maintenance. We've learned that lesson the hard way. So that is how you apply for waivers. Now, the other thing I want to talk to you about really quick is a little-known program called HIP. Have any of you heard of HIP? Yes. Okay. So HIP is the Health Insurance Premium Payment Program. And if you have a child who receives Medicaid and is on your insurance, or if you have private insurance, so insurance through your job, insurance through a private agent, they can be eligible for HIP. And what HIP does is they pay your premium. So you get $500 taken out of your check for your insurance every month. the state pays that $500. It's pretty much a huge win-win situation for you, because when you are on a waiver on Medicaid, if you have insurance, your primary physician, any medical costs that you have will always go through your private insurance first, always. When you have Medicaid too, whatever your private insurance doesn't pick up, your Medicaid will pick up. So that's always how it's going to be, regardless of whether you're on the HIP program or not. So you actually get your health insurance premium, or your premium is paid for, and you're on, go ahead. They only pay a portion of it? Okay, that's good to know. I'll check into that because I have not heard that before. Okay, good. So if you have a family policy, they only do it for the primary. Okay, yep, that makes sense. Yes, okay, good, that makes sense. Yes, I was talking about how they'll pay your health insurance premium. So they will only pay for the person that is, say that again, for the primary insurance holder. So if I'm holding the insurance, they'll pay my portion and the child who's receiving Medicaid, the Medicaid recipient. So if you have a family plan, employee plus one. Right, good. That's a great way to explain it. Good. So does that make sense to everybody? That exactly right. No, that's a great clarification, because I really have never thought about it that way. That's great. Okay, so I'll talk real fast so we can get to the cards.
So the question is just about the high deductible plans, because I think there's rules about.
Yes, there are most definitely, like everything else, there are rules regarding whether you would be eligible for HIP. It has to do with your deductible. It also has to do with how, the reason the state does it is because sometimes they will think that it's cheaper to pay that little portion, right? And have those costs come out of your insurance and then pick up the rest with Medicaid, rather than your child being on Medicaid and they're picking up all of the costs. So when you apply, it's a one-page application, and then they'll follow up with, wanting your income and your health insurance information and all that kind of stuff. No, I'm going to go back. Not your income, your health insurance stuff. And the costs and how much the medical costs are for your child. So it has to be a benefit to the state for you to be approved. So it's not just that you apply and you're approved. They need to make sure that's going to be cost effective for the state, and that your plan matches what the rules say about high deductible, those kind of things. We have had parents that have switched their kids over to their husbands because they had a high deductible plan and they were going to get kicked off a HIP. So that is possible to do. We had a lot of issues with this since I'm going to go back. When you are approved for HIP, you do not go in the managed care system. So how many of you know about the managed care system that took over Medicaid in the last Medicaid privatization? Okay, so now that Medicaid privatization is here, Kelsey knows that I cannot even get started on this, or we'll be here till 8 and I'll be very angry when I leave. What happens when you're approved for HIP, we'll do the short version. Now, since Medicaid or managed care came in, when you are approved for HIP, you will not go in the managed care system. You will not need to deal with an MCO, such as you probably heard of AmeriGroup, Iowa Total Care. You will be assigned a case manager you get to choose. You get to choose your case management agency. So there used to be a case management agency in every state, and they used to be run by the county. When managed care came in, that all went away. Because a lot of people didn't qualify for HIP. And so a lot of members went to the managed care organizations, and there weren't enough to keep county case management agencies open. Johnson County stayed open. We currently serve right around 90 to 100 members, and they all obviously have to be on HIP. There are a couple more in the state. I think there's 5 of us that stayed open, Polk County, a couple more in western Iowa. Otherwise, you can choose one of those case management agencies like Johnson County or Polk County, or you can choose DHS case management, because that's who took over all the other counties where case management didn't stay alive. DHS took those cases over. So that's what happens when you go on HIP. is you'll get your choice of case management agency. So, and I would be doing my staff a huge disservice if I didn't plug us and tell you that Johnson County Case Management provides the best service of anybody in the entire state. So, there's my plug. I have 3 case managers who have 20 plus years of experience. So, anyway, that's my little plug for Johnson County Case Management, but it's a lot to fit in. I feel like I talked super, super fast. I told Kelsey, too, that I am going to, I haven't done this before, but I am going to make a copy of my presentation, because I get into a lot more detail kind of than I went into. And if you want a copy of that, she can send that out with the material, too, so you can kind of go back. Because I know that it is, like you guys said, it's a difficult system to navigate for anybody. On top of dealing with everyday life issues, they couldn't have made it harder for people to access services in the state. And we have fought long and hard to try to simplify it. And thankfully, we have case managers that can do that, and people like Kelsey and Voc Rehab. So they can, like I said, my staff has 20 plus years. They know the ins and outs of this. They can walk you through it. And my contact information is in there too, and I can help walk you through it. And I promise I will do it slowly and more succinct and very calmly. And I won't be sweating, because I'll be on the other end of a phone, or I'll be on the other end of an email. So like I said, any question like that, and I field those questions, believe me, all the time. I've given these presentations before to Iowa City schools, to different parent providers, and my name is passed around out there, and so it's not a problem at all, and I enjoy doing it, because I feel like I'm doing, something besides sitting behind my desk and doing billing, that kind of stuff. I'd much rather be talking to people and helping them walk through the system, because it is really, really, really hard to navigate. But just know that you can do it with some help, and it will help your child. It will help your child. It's a benefit. It will help costs, and hopefully you get a good case manager that can help you walk through all the waiver stuff and all that kind of stuff. So, whew.
All right.
All right,
Thank you
questions?
very much. I know some people have to get going. We'll stick around for Q&A. If you would rather ask your question by note card, that's an option too. I'll go around, collect those. Make sure if you filled out one of these, leave it here, because we will have your child sign the student signature, and then we'll turn it back in so that we have this for your TAP specialist to start doing pre-employment transition services with them. All right. And then if you were interested in Blue and CARES dogs, you can talk to Jen back there, Jennifer. All right. Who wants to start with questions? Who wants to go first? Okay. I'm coming.
I will tell you too, in the meantime, while your people say to me, what should I do in the meantime while I'm waiting for services? You can private pay. You can still find a provider and private pay for someone to come in and do SCL or respite. The other thing is that the region right now, so the region is a group of 8 counties that include Lynn and Johnson that are funded by taxpayer money. They have a pot of money that they decide what they're going to do with based on Iowa Administrative Code. And right now, they have just added that they will fund children that have been diagnosed with a severe emotional disturbance. Yes, such as childhood schizophrenia, a pervasive developmental disorder, conduct disorder. So if you need that information, I can give you that information too. You fill out an application with the region, and they will pay for services like that. And they also have a mobile crisis services that are available to anyone, any age, anytime, anywhere. And they are at no cost to anybody. They are 24/7, 365 response team for those who are experiencing a mental health emergency. So Lynn and Johnson do both have a mobile response team. Okay.
I have 2 quick questions.
Okay.
The first one being, can
there
a
you are.
child be on more than one waiver, or like say you've applied for 2?
Right. They can only be on one.
Just one?
One
Okay.
at a time, right.
And then for the HIP program,
Mhm.
my son is on a Hawkeye. Does that play into that at all? He's not on Medicaid. He's on Hawkeye.
He's on Hawkeye. I would have to look into that to be sure, but I don't think he would qualify if he's on Hawkeye, but I will look for sure. Do you want to write that one down for me too?
Yes, if
Yes,
you write
yeah.
your email address on your card and we don't have the answer to it right this second, we will follow up. All right, who else has a question for us?
My daughter is probably not going to be able to get a job intellectually, and so I guess when I was told that this was like a transition, high school, getting ready stuff, I guess I'm like more, or my daughter's at the level where I need to like learn about like guardianship and SSI and DAHAB and 5th year school year. I've heard about, I don't know anything about it. Like, who do I
Okay.
talk to about those things?
Is she on a waiver?
She's on the waiver.
She has case
so just the
manager?
case manager? Do I talk to the case manager about all
Yeah.
that stuff?
I mean, a lot of the stuff that we do, we have some people that we have services are in place, and have been long term. And so my case managers will help give names for guardianship. You want to start talking about guardianship prior to the age of 18,
Right.
of course. Frank Vivaris is someone who is very knowledgeable. You want to talk. You apply for Social Security a month after they turn 18, right? That's
A
right,
month
right.
after.
Right. So I would. How old is your daughter right now?
15.
Okay. So it's never too early to start talking to your case manager about plans for after school.
Okay.
Getting them on some providers, and unfortunately, COVID has affected all of us in multiple ways. One of those is that they closed down DAHAB centers for a long time. So we had
Right.
people that were home, and actually the state did flexibilities that allowed for parents to stay home with their kids and get paid to stay
Right.
home with their kids.
Yeah, I do that.
Yes, yeah. We don't have an idea of when those are going to end. They're supposed to give us 6 months in advance, and we haven't heard anything. So
Right.
that's been a great thing. But and DAHABs are starting to open back up, but they also are just like everybody else. They're having a hard time finding staff
Yeah.
to work.
Okay.
And so if you can get them on a wait list even this early, that is a great thing. Or even go there and see what it's like. Go to various
Right.
ones at REM.
I mean,
or-
there's multiple ones.
Yes,
then.
REM, Reach for Your
Okay.
Potential, ask for a list. And like, does your case manager provide,
She's a mayor group, so she
yeah,
really doesn't.
sorry.
She's not local. Like but I do. We used to be on HIP, and I have a wonderful case manager that still checks in with my daughter and stuff, just because she loves her. So
That's great.
I could always get information from her.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yep.
For that.
And
stuff.
so what they should, per the Iowa Administrative Code, they should be giving you a list of providers yearly at your annual meeting.
Okay.
And it should delineate, it should say DAHAB, and it should list the list of providers.
Okay. No, I
So-
haven't got that yet.
Email me and I can send you where do you live, Lynn County?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so we serve Lynn County, so we actually have a provider list for Lynn County. So
Okay.
we could send you that, just to at least give you some names, and you can go with your case manager, or you can call them and go on your own, just to tour them and see what you think.
Okay.
You know, see if
And
you think it
the
would be a
ID
good
waiver
match.
pays for that? I mean, it
Pays for the DAHAB.
stuff?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Question.
Also, I was just going to add, in your folder, there's a form that talks about how to use the Iowa Medicaid provider search tool. That might also be a tool for you to check out. I think Jane's list will probably be a bit more concise and easier to sift through. But if you're ever struggling to get information about providers from your case manager, that can be another resource that you use. And that one-page sheet on the right side, or I'm sorry, left side, I think it's the third one back. It describes how to use that tool and what you need to put in so that you can get the information you're looking for, and that does include waiver providers.
And you can put multiple counties. Yes. Or put areas surrounding Cedar Rapids, and you can do it by county, or you can do it by city. Oh, I wasn't talking in the mic.
I have two kids with disabilities, but one has autism, he's high functioning, and the girl has intellectual disability. And when they were diagnosed over 10 years ago,
Okay.
right away they told me to apply for the ID waivers for the intellectual disability.
Mm-hmm.
But for my son, they said he's not qualified for any waiver. So is this the case until today? He just has autism, he's high functioning.
Right. So yeah, because he doesn't probably meet the qualifications as far as we have kids that fall into that scenario too. There are some. They don't call it the autism waiver, but has anyone talked to you about? It's similar. Has anybody talked to you about that? Okay.
No.
Write your name down, and I'll look that one up too for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. No, there's actually a new program that's, I would say maybe in the last 4 to 5 years, that is kind of an autism waiver. It's not technically a waiver, but yeah, that's a good point. There is DayHab too, or there is habilitation services, and some people with autism do qualify. That's more on the mental illness side of things, is rehabilitation. It's kind of like a, it's the same thing as a waiver, but it's for people who have a mental illness diagnosis.
Anyone else? Okay.
So how is the TAP working with like online students?
That's a really good question, and I can answer that for you. We make appointments, and we can meet with them online. TAP can do online. That's no problem for us. That's something that we run into. We adapted really quickly to online school. The question was, how does TAP work with online students? So we do still serve CRVA students, and the CRVA students that their home school falls into Washington, Kennedy, Jefferson, or Polk or whatever else, they would still meet with their school's TAP specialist. But we don't have a super great way of like scheduling it out without knowing that student's typical day-to-day schedule. So we just throw them on the calendar, whatever works for them, and we would kind of give them the same services that we typically would give any other student. We, like I said, made online services pretty awesome during the pandemic derecho greatness of that we won't go back to. But yes, online services are just as great as anything else. So we would love to meet with your student, and we can make everything work. We are very adaptive, and we encourage that with our students. So we meet you where you are, and we're pretty good. I would say all of us have the temperament that we're really good at building a relationship with your kiddos. So good question. All right, who else? Anyone have a burning question?
I just thought about something else too.
Okay.
If you are with a Mayor Group or you've already been assigned to a managed care, at any time you can apply for HIP. If you have a change in job, if maybe you had a high deductible, you didn't qualify and you have a change in job, you can still apply for HIP. So you can do it at any time. I tell people most of the time if you are when you're applying for Medicaid and the waivers, just to apply for HIP at that time. And you may, you have to get Medicaid to get HIP, but at least your application will be in there. But it's something that you can apply for at any time, even if you're with a managed care organization right now, or you're, as long as you have Medicaid, you can apply for HIP. So just throw that out there.
My question is, how can you check where you're at on the wait list? Is there a way that we can do that?
No. You can email me and I can check with the person and ask them. You just have to provide me with your child's name and the Medicaid number, and I can do that. I don't think if you call member services that they will tell you where you are at on the waiting list. I've never heard of a parent that's gotten that information. And obviously you may not have Medicaid either, so at least I would just need the child's name and date of birth, and then I can email my person and ask them. Sure.
I'm going to write it out so you'll have it. But
Okay, good.
I
good. That will
understand
help me
there's
remember.
a I'm going to call it a variation on these waivers where somebody just needs it for insurance purposes, but not for, there's a demarcation where they want to be able to earn more, not be limited by they have a disability and they want to be able to get the insurance, but be able to go beyond the bank account limitations, at the beginning of the month.
Okay, so when you're on a waiver, you don't have to worry about that. When you're on a waiver, you get Medicaid.
Right.
And
right.
so are you talking about like staying under resources? That's what you're talking about, right?
Staying
right.
under that
Right.
resource limit at the end of the month.
I think it's 2,000, I want to
Yeah.
say. Yes, you still do have to follow those guidelines.
But
right. Yeah. MEPID, have you heard about
I
MEPID?
thought there was a variation on that.
Yeah, there's Quimby and Slimby and MEPID and SpongeBob.
Are we just
and
making up words now?
No, I'm SpongeBob was made up. Well, he's not made up. I mean, he's real, but Slimby and Quimby are actual, and I will not speak to those. I can give you someone you can talk to that will speak to those, but I don't get into the in-depth kind of Medicaid stuff because I can only fill my head with so many things at my age. And those are things that I usually will refer to someone else who's an expert.
No, I'm not the expert on those either, but I was actually just conferring with Maggie from Voc Rehab over there. Their statewide benefits counselor, Susie Paulson, who you have the flyer in your folder. It was second from the back on the left side. It's the parent night flyer that happens once a month. She is a benefits counselor, and she is an expert in all things Social Security income resources, Medicaid benefits, this MEPID program, Medicaid for employed people with disabilities. She can speak a lot more in detail to all of those things. So I would encourage you to jump on to that webinar, and she'll be able to help you much more.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that difficult.
All right, with that, thank you everyone for coming to our evening tonight. If there's anything that you forgot to ask tonight and you just lose everything in that folder, just remember that you can get in touch with anyone who is here tonight by reaching out to the TAP person in your building. So you can call the front desk and ask for the transition specialist or the TAP person. They'll know who that is. And we will email you all of the resources that you guys saw tonight. So thank you so much for coming and have a great evening.